lesson 5.2 is writing equations when they give you a slope and then they give us a point. So we learned in 5.1, in order to write an equation in slope-intercept form, first of all, this is slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, and all I need to know is a slope and a y-intercept. That's the only thing that needs to be plugged in order to write an equation in slope-intercept form. So in 5.1, it was pretty easy. They gave me my slope, they gave me my y-intercept, and said, plug it in. Also, we did it as when they had already graphed the line. We could find the y-intercept, and then from there, we found our slope. Now, like I said, that was the easy version. It's getting a little bit trickier. So what they want me to do now, they still want me to write an equation for the line, so I still have to put it in y equals mx plus b form. Always start off by asking yourself, what do I need to write it in slope-intercept form? A slope and a y-intercept. I always need an m and I always need a b. So let's read what they've given us. Write an equation for the line that passes through the point 6, -3, okay, and has a slope of -2. So they've given me my m. But is this a y-intercept? Absolutely not. The only time it's a y-intercept is when there is a 0 for the x and I have a number for the y. Well, this is not a y-intercept. This is just a random point on our line. So this is what you do when they give you a point in a line. You take your equation, y equals mx plus b, and I think about, what do I know? I know my slope, and I know an x and a y, right? Because that point is x and y. So I can plug in an x and a y, and what's the only letter I have left? B. What is the b? It's the y-intercept, which is exactly what I need to find. So I can plug in the 3 things that they've given me to find the one thing that they have not. So I plug in my y, which is in the point right here, -3, equals m. They told me that my m was -2, times x, which was 6, plus b. I do not know what my y-intercept is. Do not get confused and plug in the 6 for the b and leave the y blank. You will get a wrong answer. Remember, when you're looking for the y-intercept, b is always the letter that represents it. So now I just solved my equation. -2 times 6 is -12. So then in order to move this 12, I need to add it to both sides. And I get -3 plus 12, which is 9, is equal to b. So now I know what b is, and I can write my equation in slope-intercept form. Y equals -2x plus 9. Okay, that's exactly what you would do there. All right, so let's do that again. Let's do it with this next one. First of all, what are the 2 things I need? Always ask yourself, what are the 2 things I need? I need a slope, and I need a y-intercept. Let's read what they've given us. Write an equation for the line that passes through the point -3, 0, and has a slope of 1/3. So I know they've given me my m. M equals 1/3, but what have they not given me? My b. Don't get confused and go, oh, but there's a 0 for the y. No. Remember, the 0 has to be for the x, and there will be a number for the y. So this is our x, this is our y, and let's plug it into our equation. So I'm going to do 0 equals -3 times 1/3 plus b. That's exactly what I'm missing. I know my m, but I don't know my b. So what's -3 times 1/3? -1 plus b. So then I add 1 to both sides, and I get b is equal to 1. So now I know m, now I know b. I can write my equation in slope-intercept form. 1/3 x plus 1. Now remember, when you go to write your equation in slope-intercept form, I will never plug back in this x and y. I never want to do that, because anything in slope-intercept form always has your x and your y blank. We never want to plug in a number for those. All right, so let's do another one of these. What have they given me? They've given me a point that is not the y-intercept, and they've given me my slope. So I know m is equal to 1/2, and I do not know what b is. But I know x and I know y. So let's plug it in. 2 is equal to, and remember, my equation is y equals mx plus b. So I have 2 is equal to 1/2 times 4 plus b. 1/2 times 4 is 2. Subtract 2 on both sides. What does b equal? 0. So when I go to write my equation, I would write y equals 1/2 x plus 0. Now, anytime you have a y-intercept of 0, you can always write your equation as this. You don't have to write that 0. However, I would suggest writing the 0. That way you always know, oh, okay, it's not like I'm missing a y-intercept. It's just at 0. That's how I would prefer to see it anyways, okay? But it's not wrong if you write it in that form either. Okay, so we've learned how to write an equation for a line that passes through a point and has a certain slope. So we find our y-intercept and then we can plug it in and write our equation. But now we're going to talk about parallel lines. If you think about it, parallel lines are lines that run directly side by side that will never ever touch. They're not the same line, okay? They run side by side just like parallel lines on the road. Okay, they're going to run side by side, lanes on a highway. They're never going to cross, okay? If they cross, you got a big problem with the driving, okay? So, write an equation for a line that's parallel. First of all, the thing that you have to know about parallel lines is they have the exact same slope. I can always know that a line is going to be parallel if they have the same slope. So, somewhere on your notes, write down parallel lines have the same slope. Okay. I'm going to box it in with a color so you can kind of see that it's different from all the other black and white writing on here. Parallel lines have the same slope. So when they give me information, they say, write an equation for the line that's parallel. Well, what do I know about parallel lines? They have the same slope. So if they've already given me an equation in y equals mx plus b right here, if I know my next line is going to have this same slope, this is what I take out of that whole equation. That is the only thing I'm looking for, is the fact that m is equal to 2/3. Don't worry about the b. You do not have the same b with parallel lines, okay? They gave you a point. So now we're back to the exact same type of problems we had in example 1. They've given me my slope, and they've given me a point, and they want me to solve to find b. So remember, if they ever want you to write an equation for a line that's parallel, only use that equation for the slope. That's the whole point. Parallel lines have the same slope. I never want to use it for the y-intercept. Okay? So let's plug it in. I know I have an x. I know I have a y. I know I have an m. So I'm going to say 1 is equal to 2/3 times -2 plus b. Okay, we're going to end up with a fraction here, and that's okay. 1 equals -4/3 plus b. So I add 4/3 to both sides. And I get, I'm going to change my 1 to 3/3. So I'm going to get 7/3 equals b. And you can change that to a mixed number if you'd like. So we could change that to 2 1/3. And I write it as an equation. I know my slope was 2/3, so y equals 2/3 x plus 2 1/3. So that's what I would do. So the whole point of them giving you this equation and telling you that the line is parallel is so I know, okay, parallel lines have the same what? The slope. So that's all I'm looking for in that equation that they've given me. Okay, I'm going to erase all this and then start on this next equation. Write an equation for the line that's parallel. That should be your hint, hint, hint that they have the same slope. So I look at this equation. Y equals mx plus b. I know the number in m spot is my slope. So I know my m is -3. and it passes through the point. Remember, I don't use anything else in this equation. The only thing I'm concerned about is -3. And now I have my x and my y, and I'm going to plug it in. So I've got -4 equals 3. I'm sorry, -3 times 3 plus b. -4 is equal to -9 plus b, and I add 9 to both sides, and I get b is equal to 5. Now I've got my slope and my y-intercept. I can write my equation. Y equals -3x plus 5. Okay, now there's one other type of problem that I want you to look like that deals with parallel lines. Remember, in order to figure out if lines are parallel, I have to look. Do they have the same slope? Well, I know my equation for slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So if they have the exact same number in the spot for the m, then yes, they are parallel. So all I got to do is look. So let's look at this equation. Y equals mx plus b. What is the m in this first equation? -3. What is the m in this second equation? +3. So would these lines be parallel? Do they have the exact same slope? No, these lines are not parallel. Now look at this next example. Y equals 5x plus 9 and 5y equals 10x plus 25. What is the slope in this first equation? Right here in front of the x, so m is equal to 5. What do I have to do to this next equation to make it in y equals mx plus b form? Because it is not in y equals mx plus b form. This 5 right here has got to go. So I've got to divide everything by 5. And then I can say, okay, let's see what the slope is. 10 divided by 5 is 2 plus 5. Did these have the same slope? What's the slope of this equation? 2. So no, again, is my answer. Now, if this would have been a 2y, and I would have divided everything by 2, then I would have gotten 5x. And yes, I would have had the same slope, but I did not have that in my equation. So, remember, it's got to be in y equals mx plus b form. I can't just look at that and go, oh, 10 and 5, so no. You've got to put it in y equals mx plus b form first and then see, do I have the same slope? So remember, in order to write an equation in y equals mx plus b form, I have to have a slope and a y-intercept. If they only give me my slope and a point, I plug it in for x and y and m, and I solve for b. And parallel lines have the same slope.